The Jewish community in Michigan and in other parts of the Western world is under siege. Even though certain surveys have that there are a lot more Jews than we thought there are, those are surveys. Surveys mean nothing. Jews traditionally had identified with a synagogue, with a temple, with supporting Israel last 75 years. Jews today don't support Israel as they did and don't identify as Jews as they did. And the reason for that is they're not taught to believe that there is a Word of God, that there's a God of history that has chosen the Jewish people for a purpose, to fulfill the Torah. Even though it should be clear as day that this exists, that this purpose still exists. The very fact that Israel today is a nation in the land of its ancestors, despite all of the political ambivalence, the political opposition of the world to a Jewish state, the Jewish state survives. And the Jewish state today, in another couple of years, will have more Jews in it than the rest of the world. This is nothing short of a miracle. After World War II, Jews were shrinking. Jews were devastated. And the number of religious Jews in the world was a tiny fraction of our people. Half, at least, of the Jews who were murdered were from Poland and Hungary and Romania, Lithuania, Russia, areas where traditional Jews lived. At least half of the Jews murdered were Jews who kept Sabbath and kept kosher and identified with the Torah. And therefore, after World War II, after all of those shocking events, people were devastated. It's no wonder a lot of people left the fold. Those who survived only were worried about survival. Financial, physical survival than financial survival. Only a few were interested to become religious Jews again. But an interesting thing happened. The Jews that were religious did not disappear. Israel did not disappear. Israel today is as relevant as any country on earth, despite the fact that it is the target of most of the countries of this world for extinction. We were promised by God that one day we will return to this land, the land of Israel. Gone through almost 2,000 years of exile. And we've returned to our land. In fact, in returning to our land, despite the best efforts of secularism, it is returning to our land and returning to our Torah. Because more than 25% of the representatives in the Knesset wear kippot, wear religious covering upon their heads. And another quarter believes in the traditions. The reason why the right-wing government of Bibi Netanyahu is so opposed by the liberal leftist Jews on the outside of Israel and by Western governments is because not because it's a Jewish state, but because the kind of Jews that have now gained power. The kind of Jew that has gained power is the religious Jew. Religious Jew has now gained power in Israel and will only get stronger. The reason for that is demographics. Religious Jews have about 5, even the most secular of religious Jews have at least 5 children. Religious Haredi Jews average 7 children. Secular Jews average less than 2 children. The numbers don't lie. Within 20 years, the majority of Jews in Israel will be religious. It's the fact of life. And this will continue to grow. And that's why they're so upset. But I want to address a separate issue. This is not gloating. I'm not trying to gloat. But rather, I want to talk about the reason for the disappearing secular Jew, so-called secular Jew. Why is that? The answer is a so-called secular Jew has no reason to continue as a Jew. If it's because of Jewish survival, Jews have survived. Your family has survived. And if you're intermarried, you've survived and become part of the Goyim, part of the majority, so to speak. So if you've intermarried, you think you've made it, especially if you married Biden's son or Clinton's daughter. I don't consider it such a glick. It's not a glick. But if you want to be in the center of American culture, American influence, that would probably be it. Jared Kushner married Donald Trump's daughter. That's pretty good, right? Not as far as I'm concerned. Well, Trump's daughter did, to her credit, convert to halacha. Was this considered a halacha or not is questioned by certain rabbis. I heard from the Rav who did it that he did it correctly. And I have no question that the conversion was okay, and she is Jewish, and her children are Jewish. But the most important factor over here is, why are you disappearing? Why are there less and less conservative synagogues? And ultimately, there will be less and less Reform synagogues. Reform synagogues are also feeling the pinch. Numbers are dwindling. Why? The answer is a simple answer. You don't have a Torah. If I was the head of any of these organizations, I would create my own Torah and teach that Torah to the people so that they should be able to continue in their path so they don't disappear. But the problem is, as far as I know, there is no other Torah than the Torah that we have. And if you believe in the Torah, then you believe in Shabbos. And if you believe in Shabbos, you believe in kashrus. And if you believe in kashrus, you believe in mikveh. If you believe in mikveh, you believe in sending your children to a day school, despite the fact that it's very expensive. And so the reason for Orthodox survival, Orthodox revival in the Western world is because of the belief of the holiness of, the beauty of, the inspiration of, the intellectual challenge of the Torah. The Torah is what caused Orthodox Jews to flourish after the Holocaust in a place of tremendous melting pots and tremendous assimilation. The belief in the Torah and the study of the Torah is what has kept our people strong and flourishing. And the reason why the conservative synagogues and the Reform temples will disappear, and I don't want them to disappear. I want them to have members. I want those members to remain strongly Jewish until I can convince them otherwise. I want them to remain. I want them to flourish. The reason why they're not flourishing is because they have no reason, a real reason to remain as Jews. There is no reason. If it's only nostalgia, if it's only lox and bagels, if it's only Mama's Kishka, if it's only the Seder on Pesach, that's not good enough a reason to survive. You have to believe that God told you something. And what God told you is found in a book. It's called the Torah. And you got to teach it to your kids. And your kids have got to believe that this is a transmission for them, that this is important for them. And it's got to be exciting for them. It's got to be happy for them, enthusiastic for them. They've got to be alive studying it. You know why they're not alive? You know why? Because they're taught by their rabbis that this is a bunch of fables, that the Exodus never happened, that Purim never happened. Tell me why I should celebrate Purim or celebrate Pesach if the rabbi tells me that it never happened. I would just quit right there. Why be Jewish? If it never happened, it doesn't mean anything. Tradition, I'm not interested in tradition. It's enough of a tradition for me to be a Brooklyn Dodger. Oh, well, Brooklyn Dodgers are no longer in Brooklyn. So I'm no longer a Dodger fan. And if I'm no longer a Dodger fan, I would the same way no longer be Jewish. If all it was a tradition. It's only by the study of Torah, by the belief that this is a divine document, and by the proof of this throughout the centuries, that's the only way to continue being Jewish. If I was a conservative leader, I would look to see if I could make a yeshiva promoting conservative perspectives, but studying Torah, arguing over Torah, arguing till my face was blue, make sure that the kids enjoy it, the kids understand it. It's not what's happening, because the rabbinate doesn't believe that it's true. The rabbi doesn't believe it's true. Why should I? And that's what people are saying, and that's why they're leaving. They don't want to leave out all of them. They've got too much history, too much nostalgia. I'm just not a nostalgic person. The reason I have a beard and wear tzitzis and put on tefillin, because I believe in everything that's found in the Torah. And why do I believe in everything that's found in the Torah? Every generation has its Moses. I'm a tiny student of a great teacher, Lubavitcher Rebbe, who showed me that the Torah is real, the Torah is true, that gave every element of his being to show us that every letter, every word, every passage, every chapter is holy. Every chapter and every line and every letter comes from God. That's why we believe as strongly, as passionately as we are, and all of my cohorts, all of my friends, even those people who don't like me, but are still Jewish. The reason is they have a Rebbe, and they believe in the Torah. And that's why we won't disappear. And that's why you shouldn't either. Study the Torah, and you won't disappear. Teach your children the Torah, you won't disappear. But then I won't be conservative. So what? But you'll still be Jewish, just like me.